Oh, hey guys, you're back. You're back to do your job. What's your job? Listen to the story. Pay close attention. Answer those questions with complete sentences. We are on chapter 33 and 34 today. Chapter 33 is called Trouble. Now remember, you do need to answer those questions correctly, and you need to restate the question with a complete sentence. Copy and paste the question, and then change the question to be your answer. That's going to be your fastest way to get done. Let's get started with chapter 33, Trouble. Please put her down, Gertrude, pleaded Eric. The boy tried his best to reason with the gorilla. Despite being a gentle giant, Gertrude was still a giant when she wanted to be. Pretty place, Hatted said. Gertrude tilted her head to one side as if trying to understand. Put me down, ordered the lady. Down, repeated the boy. The gorilla nodded, her head down, as if she were saying, You want her to go down? Yes, said Eric, thinking he must be getting through. Down! With that, Gertrude put the warden down head first into the dustbin. Clunk! Her helmet must have clunked against the bottom of the metal bin as she was knocked out. Oh no, naughty Gertrude, scolded the boy. The gorilla shrugged and smirked. It looked very much like she'd done the whole thing on purpose. Is she all right? Asked Eric. The pair heaved Nina out of the bin and laid her on the ground. Next, Sid leaned down and put his ear to the lady's mouth to listen. She's still breathing, but she's out cold. We can't just leave her here lying on the road. No, of course not. Come on. Gertrude, that was very bad, he said, wagging his finger at the ape. Gertrude looked behind her, as if to say, Who are you telling off? The gorilla sniffed dismissively. Sniff. Peering at the reflection in the window of one of the houses, Gertrude flattened down with the spiky hair on her head that had been so rudely tugged. Now, Eric, you grab the warden's arms and I will grab her legs. On 3. 1, 2, 3. The pair picked Nina up and gently sat her on the bench of a nearby bus stop. Miss Misra can sleep it off there, remarked Sid. And of course, it's handy if she needs to catch the bus home in the morning. Exactly, concluded the old man before turning his attention to the gorilla, who was still preening herself to a posh lady in the makeup shop. Now, come along, Trouble. He and Eric took Gertrude by the hands and led her down the deserted road to his home. As they did so, the all-clear signal sounded, Woo! To their great relief, the night's bombing raid was over. The Luftwaffe bombers that hadn't been shot out of the sky were now flying back to Germany. Chapter 34, Pink, Frilly Night Dresses. When Sid and Eric walked through the door of the old man's little terraced house, it wasn't clear who was more pleased to see them, the animals or Bessie. Sid's #1 fan had been waiting up in her pink frilly nightdress all night for their return. Ma Sidney! She exclaimed, powering down the corridor, heading straight for him. The lady bustled past the animals and launched herself at her love. His eyes were opened wide in shock as she wrapped herself around him. Thank the good Lord you are safe! Oh, I was, he said, struggling to breathe, as she was holding him so tight. Such was the force of her jump that Sid's 10 legs couldn't take it. Crinkle! They rocked backwards and the pair tumbled to the floor. Doof! Bessie ended up sitting on top of Sidney, who was spread out on the floorboards. Oh, Sidney, you old devil! Eric chuckled to himself. Can somebody please help me up? Demanded Sid. Let's not be too hasty, hooted Bessie. No, let's be very hasty. Chop, chop! Eric helped Bessie to her feet first. I enjoyed that, she sighed. Then they both helped the old man to his 10 feet. Oh, I didn't. I could hardly breathe, spluttered Sid. Next he greeted the animal children. They were also pleased to see him. It is quite something being pawed at, nuzzled, and licked by a parrot, a baby elephant, a seal, a flamingo, a crocodile, an enormously bottomed baboon, and bringing up the rear, a giant tortoise, all at once. I've missed you, my beauties, said Sid. And I know who this is, cooed Bessie on seeing the gorilla. Oh, she's glorious! The newest member of our family, announced the boy. Meet Gertrude. The gorilla began greeting all the other animals as if they were old friends. Some she might have remembered from the zoo. Others she was meeting for the first time. No matter. She showered them all with love, with cuddles, strokes, and kisses galore. "Who would ever want to hurt this magnificent lady?" exclaimed Bessie. "Now, what does Gertrude like to eat? I could cup her up a nice welcoming treat." "Bananas are her favorite." "No bananas, I'm afraid. There is a war on." "Raisins?" "I just baked a fruit and nut cake. It has a ton of raisins in it." "Yummy! I'm sure she'd love that," exclaimed the boy. Eagerly, Gertrude nodded her head and licked her lips. Slurp. "And I would too," said Sid. "Oh, and a nice cup of cocoa." "Oh, well, if you're doing cocoa and cake, I would love some too. Please? I'm starving," added the boy. "Let me get cracking," said Bessie, as she bustled out of the back door. The boy slumped down in the chair in the kitchen and yawned. "I'll have my cocoa and cake and go straight to bed," said Eric. The old man's eyes flashed with fear. "What?" asked the boy. "We can't stay here," said Sid. "Why not?" "They'll be on to us." "Who?" "Everyone. Frown, Batter, Gnarl. They might have already called the coppers. And then there's the air raid warden out there. She'll wake up soon, and she knows exactly where I live." "How come?" "I pointed at the house." "Oh, yes. That wasn't too clever." "Wasn't too clever," repeated Parker, on the one. "Wasn't too clever," repeated Parker, the one-winged parrot who was perched on Eric's shoulder. "Shush you," said Sid. "Shush you," the parrot repeated. "Cheeky little so-and-so, isn't she?" chuckled Sid. "Where can we go?" asked the boy. "We need to get out of London. A fully grown gorilla is far too big for this little house anyway. No offense, Gertrude." The gorilla was too busy pulling fleas out of Bati, the baboon's fur, and eating them, looked back at him, and shrugged. "We need to go somewhere with open spaces, so she can lollop around to her heart's content." Eric had never been out of the city in his short life. Some of the other children at his school bragged about day trips to the seaside, and Eric had always wanted to go. It was something his mom and dad had often talked about, but, alas, it was not to be. "How about we take Gertrude to the seaside?" suggested Eric. "In December?" spluttered the old man. "It'll be blowing a gale." "Oh, no, you're right. It's a stupid idea," he replied, downcast. Suddenly, Sid's face brightened. "It's not a stupid idea. It's a brilliant idea. No one else will be visiting the seaside at this time of year. We'll have that place to ourselves. There's an old guest house I used to stay at way back when I was a boy. In the last century it was. Oh, I loved it. It was just outside Bognor Regis, up on a hill. From there, I could see all the British warships going into the Portsmouth harbour. I went back there just before war broke out to take a trip down memory lane, but it was all boarded up. It would be the perfect place for us to hide out." "Brilliant. What's it called?" asked the boy. "Seaview Towers," said Sid. "Seaview Towers." "Seaview Towers," repeated Parker the parrot. "Seaview Towers, Seaview Towers." And that's going to do it for chapters 33 and 34. Now remember, you've got to answer those questions with those complete sentences restating the question. Again, copy and paste the question, change the question to your answer, and you're all done. Have a great rest of your day, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for chapter 35.